So TM today is going to talk about zero trust architecture, which is one of those nice fun buzzwords we keep hearing at the moment. Let me scroll down. Here we go. So TM is the security chief technologist within DXC Technology. He's chiefly responsible for cybersecurity thought leadership, as well as the research and development activities for DXC security worldwide. So without further ado, TM, feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm going to switch over to my slide. Hi, afternoon, everyone. I'm so excited to be addressing a number of Australian and a number of overseas viewers. I won't go too much into my introduction. Ian has done a great job introducing me, so I'll just jump right into my presentation because this is going to be a lightning talk. I'm only given 10 minutes, and you'll notice I talk very, very fast, so I'll try to squeeze as many stuff within this 10 minutes time frame. So first of all, why did I prepare this talk? I prepared this talk because I was frustrated. I was frustrated because in the last 2 months when I came back from RSA conference, I was in RSA conference, everybody was selling, we have zero trust products. And I was like, no, your product doesn't, that is not a zero trust product. Zero products that does zero trust, probably is a buzzword. And there's a couple of vendors that were talking about, oh, we have micro-segmentation, therefore you have zero trust. I was like face palm. I was like, that's not zero trust. And what became apparent when I was in RSA conference was that I had a privilege to go into some private conversations with specific vendors, and they were all talking about what they were doing in zero trust. And I asked a number of people and in the room, and I asked them, what is your definition of zero trust? And they will all look at me and it's like, yeah, that's a good question. What exactly is zero trust? Everybody has their own definitions of zero trust. And here's the problem. There's no definition of zero trust in the industry yet. So what I want to do in the next 9 minutes is to really walk everyone through, right, what zero trust should be all about. Next slide. Now, before we start, have a look at this video. Okay, that, my friend, everybody, that is zero trust. That video was taken in Philippines in a mall. And I'm going to make reference to that video later throughout the whole presentation. And because it's important to understand through that video alone what zero trust is all about.
Sorry to interrupt, TM. I don't think your slides are showing at the moment.
Oh, sorry. Oh gosh. Oh, I'm so sorry. I know why. Okay, guys, sorry. I know what happens. I'm so sorry. I'm going to start over again at the start of the.
Yep, go for it.
Okay, so sorry. Okay, I'm going to, I believe you can see the slide now.
Yes, we can see the slides now.
Okay, I'll now play the video one more time. Okay, so I hope this little 15-second snippets video gives you an idea what zero trust is about. It was taken in Philippines mall. The link is there if you want to see a better version of it. And the rest of my presentation, I will actually make reference to this slide. So what is zero trust? I won't go into the definition because the definition itself, right, is there's many interpretations to it. But I'll just give probably 4 words for everyone to take away in this presentation. Never trust, always verify. It is the opposite of the security way of doing things in the past, where we always use the word trust but verify. Now, because the concept is so different, it is going to change the way how we do cybersecurity management in the coming years, and it's actually a better way of doing things. And so why companies should be doing zero trust? The reason is very simple. We in the security industry has always advocated deny or allow some access management. It has been a very hard process in the last 20 years, but progressively as the industry has matured, a lot of organizations are starting to think that this is actually within their reach, and it's actually now much possible. And security technology has evolved massively in the last 5 years, such that the concept of zero trust implementation, right, will become easier in time to come. So how do you actually, what are the 4 key things you need to take note when you want to do zero trust? First, you need to be you need to have good situational awareness of what are the assets to assess. You have to understand when you assess any data, any network, any piece of information on your environment, you need to actually visualize and think about who is going to access it and how are they going to access it. Understanding this assets is very important because you cannot lock down if you have no idea how those assets are going to be accessed. So this is the very important thing. The next thing is this. For those people who have actually encountered the concept of zero trust when Google started Beyond Corp in 2014, one of the first things that you read in the stuff that they have shared when they written a book about it is that they talk about the importance of a centralized identity framework. And this is very important. You can't do proper zero trust if you're going to have a fragmented identity framework or the absence of an identity framework. So one of the common problems that I have observed in most organizations is that they have an AD environment that authenticate most of the users, and then in some of the IT systems, they actually create a separate authentication systems using a series of SSH, which will actually break zero trust if you're going to start authenticating people using disparate identification framework. The third thing is that this is the hard part, is that once you have mapped out the access to the assets, once you have a centralized identification framework in place, you now need to build the policies. And I will tell right now, the biggest challenges in zero trust implementation is actually building this policy, because zero trust is only made possible if you build a robust policies to say who can access what, under when conditions, and how they can access it. And then the Kipling method, right, is actually the who, what, where, how, when, and the why. Okay, so you need to build a policy framework to actually look at the assets, right, and actually answers those 6 questions. And if you build a framework around it, you are now starting to put a real control around who, how the assets are to be accessed in a proper manner. And one last thing, you have to always monitor your environment the minute you implement zero trust. And let me explain why. The whole concept of zero trust is that you now effectively have created what we call a large-scale whitelisting framework. And if someone tries to bypass this whole framework, something will trigger. Okay, it will probably it will be probably easier to monitor anomalous access, anomalous behavior through a zero trust framework. And because it's going to be it's going to be triggered much easier if it's a bad behavior. It means that, right, the fidelity of this anomalous access is very high, in the sense that it could probably potentially be something that requires an investigation, why that access is being made and was triggered. So if you do not monitor, the whole purpose of implementing zero trust is going to go down the drain. So you actually have to monitor continuously. On the flip side, because you have already created a strong, robust framework to allow access to the assets, always remember, company process change, business change. The access to the assets will continuously change, because people come and go. So you actually have to also monitor to make sure that even if this approved access today, it may have to change tomorrow. So these are the 4 key things to take note when you're going to implement zero trust in your environment. There are actually 3 enforcement layers when you implement zero trust. Okay, infrastructure, that's probably the most common implementation that everybody is aware of through the concept of micro-segmentation. But zero trust actually goes way more than just micro-segmentation. It also talks about at the container level, when they talk to, when you have a container spinning off and talking to another entity, such as like a serverless function, you can have a container serverless function talking to another serverless function. So all these forms part of the infrastructure. So it's not necessarily just about micro-segmentation, right? Preventing lateral movement from PCA to PCB. The next enforcement layer is identity. And this is where it becomes interesting, because zero trust is more than just infrastructure. Zero trust can also be applied to identity. Okay, I'll give one good example of what is zero trust in the identity world. A lot of you probably will have logged into web servers. They will ask you to provide username and password. You probably log into access a website. They will provide you a server certificate, and then you can prove that yes, I'm visiting this website. But here's the thing: has the website ever authenticate you as the user? Okay, when SSL was invented, it was conceived with the mind that both the server as well as the end user, they have certificates that can authenticate each other before they can proceed with the transaction. It was very hard those years. But in today, when the whole concept of PKI and identification has largely been automated, it is now actually easier to actually do mutual authentication. So if you've seen the video earlier, right, where the security guard was actually doing a temperature check on the user coming in, the user was actually doing a temperature check back on the security guard, because how do I know that, you can also be trusted? So that mutual authentication is very important. So, and it fits the example of never trust, always verify. Not from just from the server perspective, from the user, you also has to practice zero trust as well back to the asset that you're accessing. Lastly, data. You can actually enforce data zero protection on data access. And there are one key aspect that I would like everyone to, two key aspects I would actually like everyone to take note about how you can enforce zero trust on data. There has some data pseudo randomization is starting to become very important from the analytics point of view. A lot of business analysts, right, will tend to dump the data right out from a DB, right, to perform business analytics. Actually, they don't need to do that. You can actually only share certain information, randomize the information, and pass it to the business analyst, right, to do their analytics. So that's one aspect of it. The other aspect of it, which is a very new, interesting research, is that you can actually do business analytics, right, through an encrypted channel. Okay, you never see what the contents are inside encrypted channel, but there is a way now that they can actually do some analytics of the information that's inside encrypted enclave. Now, how to start on the zero trust journey? Now, this is going to be a conversation for those people who are decision makers and probably those people who are being tasked to actually start zero trust and they're struggling. Where do we start? You can, my suggestions is actually a couple of areas. Always start from greenfield, and the reason is this: when you start from greenfield, you can contain the learning to a particular small area, and even if it feels right, you do not impact with your the rest of the general environment. And starting from greenfield is important. It's because that's where you actually start to learn about inculcating the concepts of zero trust very slowly into your environment, which then leads me to the next point. Okay, always implement in phases. Do not try to implement zero trust, as a big bang approach, because going back to my point about in RSA conference, people start buying zero trust products and then they start trying to implement in the whole company. It is going to fail very badly. But lastly, the most important thing about when you start the zero trust journey, you have to change the security management culture inside your organization, because I can tell you it is really very hard to tell people that from now on you got to actually map out and understand how you assess the asset. Okay, you have to challenge everybody or everything that is being, that's trying to assess asset. It is going to change and break the way how people operate. So changing the culture is very important if you want to start, because it is a very different way of doing cybersecurity management. There's a couple of applicable industries. Healthcare, they tend to have a flat network. Zero trust can actually help in securing the medical devices very quickly through some of these micro-segmentation technology. Any industry with OT environment is also a good use case for zero trust. And lastly, financial and retail industry are absolutely useful, especially when they are very concerned about point of sale machine, accessing the corporate network and anything that deals with money away from the corporate network. So to wrap up, I only have 1 minute left. I want everyone to take away 3 key messages about what zero trust. It is not a product. And it is all about the behavior of how you treat cybersecurity management. This is important because if anybody tells you right now in the market that we have a zero trust product, that is a buzzword, okay? And I have to set this expectation. It is very hard, okay? But if you do it right, I can assure you it is a very future-proof of way of actually protecting your environment. And with that, I'll thank you very much for taking your time out on a Good Friday to listen to my presentation. Look forward to speak to you guys again. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, TM. And we actually do have a number of questions in the chat. So if you have some time, it would be great if you could answer those questions as well.
Yes, I will do that. Okay, thanks,
thank you
Ian.
very much.
And thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.